interleaving. Today I'm going to be discussing interleaving as a framework for how we can think about structuring lessons to improve overall skill acquisition. Interleaving basically is where you take one particular concept or one particular skill and you pair it with a separate skill or separate concept, and you go sort of back and forth interleaving between those two skills. If we're like talking about sports, for example, we might interleave in one practice, dribbling, passing, shooting, and instead of working on dribbling the entire time, we interleave attack and then defend, attack and then defend, kind of going in between those two things. Interleaving takes advantage of a couple of things that help with learning, and that is spacing effects, consolidation, and overall retention. When we think of maybe a typical English lesson, we might think, at the very beginning of class, and do some bell work that might incorporate some reconnecting to a previously learned concept or a previously learned skill. And then we're going to dig in, if our focus is today, maybe like reading literature, we might do a little bit of, vocab review or preview. The first 20 minutes, second 20 minutes might be, reading either as individually or as groups, maybe answering some easy questions. At the end, maybe focusing on some more in-depth analysis questions. But the entire lesson is built around that one skill, overarching skill of reading analysis. Interleaving kind of takes that and adjusts it in a way in which we can incorporate other skills as we go through those different skill focus points. So, basic structure, if you have your Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedule, your lesson is approximately an hour to 80 minutes. You break that into three, first 20, second 20, third 20. And rather than have, reading analysis the entire focus, or reading literature, if that's your skill focus, the entire time, we're going to interleave that with writing focus. So what that might look like in a given week. So, on Monday, let's say we come in and we have a short text that is, the focus point, again, reading literature. We come in, we read that short text for about 20 minutes. Maybe we do a bell work of, hey, 3 question summary. Maybe we have like a quick character chart, what those character traits are. 20 minutes, and we take a break, and we come back, and maybe together or in groups, we talk about those characters, those events, and how those pieces work together. But sticking with the reading literature. But at that point, we're going to stop and we're going to shift gears to a separate skill, which in this case will do some writing. And maybe we end class with an open prompt or a prompt if we're focusing like in 8th grade, a huge topic skill is argumentative. Maybe we give a prompt that asks the students to respond, to make a claim, and give some reasoning or thoughts behind whatever that prompt is. And the class come back on Wednesday, and on Wednesday, again, interleaving, maybe we start with a longer text and we have a 20-minute read of a longer text, maybe an easier text, something that students can access. It's connected conceptually to the shorter text, but instead of focusing really in depth on that, we just have a little bit of time to read, maybe a quick summary, and then take a break and we shift gears and we go back to writing and we focus on that particular prompt that we started at the end of class on Monday. And with this focus now, we come back to the writing, we look at what we wrote, we do some reviews, some independent review. Maybe we take a look at a couple student examples that show strengths in a couple particular areas, especially if we see particular patterns in the class, we can focus on those, and then maybe take some time to do some peer review, some revisions, and at the end, some reflection. End of class, come back on Friday. Maybe we have an open prompt. We have something completely different, something that is not necessarily writing, or maybe it is writing if you feel like that is something that is it's beneficial, but still kind of sticking with that writing open prompt again, similar to the beginning of class on Wednesday, where it's a very sort of low intensity environment with a longer text, similar to writing. And then taking a break, coming back, and then we can dig into the reading of the text that we looked at on Wednesday, and by going back to it, doing some analysis, maybe some paired questions, some paired shared discussion, and maybe some, an end reflection at the end. Now, doing this, as I mentioned at the beginning, it takes advantage of spacing, consolidation, and retention. So when we can combine by interleaving these two, basically our brains want to, take a break. So when we focus on one particular skill in a blocked or masked, even with variability, our brains are going to have a harder time separating and consolidating that information and retaining it because it's harder to connect it to multiple different things. But when we can interleave, when we can go and come back, it gives our brains that little bit of time to rest and consolidate. And especially if we are looking at texts and writing prompts that have some connections that we can deliberately, or even sometimes maybe explicitly, make those connections. So when we're reading that longer text, if we can ask questions that connect to argumentative in some way, building those extra connections are going to help improve overall retention. So instead of massed practice, interleaving, taking advantage of spacing, consolidation, and retention.